everybody. Welcome to Short Fuse. I'm Duncan Roberts, and I'm here with Ollie O'Donoghue.
Hello, Duncan Roberts and audience.
Nice to see you again. We are here to have a little bit of a debate. Something that's been in the news quite a lot recently, and is happening more and more, which is news around the Metaverse, XR, VR, MR, AR, all these different R's that you've got, and all the different smart glasses, augmented reality glasses, virtual reality headsets. And we're just going to have a little bit of a debate on whether we're short or long on that scene in general. So, as always, Ollie, let's go.
No. You go first. You go first this time. You go first this time.
Okay.
Well, once again, you actually do the Metaverse, don't you? So I'm obviously. I think we all know where I'm.
Well, we
be.
first met when I was working on a report on the Metaverse, wasn't I?
That's right, and you were extolling the virtues of NFTs. And
I was
Metaverse.
Not.
You were.
I was
you
not.
were. You absolutely were. You absolutely were. You were. So for just for everyone's benefit, what you were saying is like, oh, it's a great way of managing copyright and digital rights and stuff like that. So you were a more pragmatic approach, but
not selling pictures of monkeys.
No. But this was peak monkey. This journey was peak monkey, where like if you're on what was then still Twitter, I believe, my entire feed was full of people being like, "Oh, if you haven't got one of these, you're going to be like worth nothing in the future." But also people buying digital land and be like, "This is going to be worth billions in it." Oh, it was absolutely the amount of squandering going on at the time.
Yeah. Well, let me be clear, right? The Metaverse, the word Metaverse, has always been, will always be complete nonsense. It's a word made up by a science fiction writer who was then pulled into a Metaverse project where I think he was completely out of his depth. And it means nothing. It's nonsense. It's a nonsense word that people use in different ways to describe different things. Meta then co-opted it. Well, Facebook co-opted it, changed their name to Meta, and then had absolutely no idea what to do with it. And I hate it. I hate the word, but I love some of the ideas within it. So I'm very, very short on the Metaverse. I think it's nonsense. I'm very, very long on the technology around augmented and virtual reality for specific use cases, not this overarching, like you're going to exist within a virtual world concept. So, and I think we're seeing lots of people throw ideas out there. There's a lot of movement in this space, some of which I think is poorly designed and implemented, some of which I think is brilliantly done. But I worry that some of the what I believe are the poorer ideas are going to overtake, and I'm sure we'll discuss those. So short on the Metaverse, stupid, long on some of the technologies. And just let me be clear as well, I'm not including the blockchain stuff in this idea of the Metaverse. I think it doesn't fit with what we're discussing today. Maybe we can talk about it tangentially and do a separate episode on it. But for now, I'm not going to talk about NFTs, blockchain, digital land, because it's nonsense.
But presumably you can buy, images of monkeys quite cheap these days.
Well, yeah, I imagine they're going for pennies on the dollar. Or you could just make one using AI and say, "Oh, look, this is now worth £1 million."
At its peak, there was a troll account on Twitter that would, anytime anyone bought one of the what are they called? Something apes, weren't they, or something?
I was not Daft Ape. Probably
something
like
that, but it was something of that description. So anyone who bought this one, they would change their profile picture to it, and then at the person being like, "Oh, it's really cool." And obviously, the immediate response was like, "You don't own that. You don't own that. You can't. You have to pay. You have to pay me for that. You can't." Oh, it's tremendous fun. I think I'm of the same mind as you. I don't really believe that the Metaverse, a version of the universe that we'll be able to jump into and dive in and out of, will ever exist. Or if I suppose it does exist to some extent. Now, anyone would want to be in it, which is true of most of them. But the technology is incredibly useful. So VR headsets for solving plumbing issues is something I'm, of course, incredibly passionate about.
But all right, so here's the thing: the metaverse is a concept. So Facebook rebranded as Meta and said we're going to build the metaverse. They're in the entirety of their exploration of that from a software point of view is something called Horizon Worlds, which is just an app. And it's an app that basically copies a bunch of apps that already exist out there, like something like VR Chat or Roblox or Big Screen Beta or a number of different things. So they haven't done anything to create this virtual world that you want to exist in more than anybody else has by creating different apps. It's just an application. So they haven't really pushed the boundaries of what you can and can't do. And I think this is the difference when we talk about the metaverse is the difference between software and hardware. Meta's done a unarguably great job on reducing the price, expanding the market for general purpose VR technology, and is doing something similar with AR technology going forward, as now are many others. But their software is horribly lacking.
Well, they couldn't even force their own employees, the employees working on it, to go in there, could they? I mean, so I've got the one of the leaked memos. There were two. One that went out and was like, "For goodness sakes, guys, can you hold your meetings in the metaverse? Come on, we should all be doing this," and no one did. And then there's a follow-up one, which, imagine getting this from your boss: everyone in this organization should make it their mission to fall in love with Horizon Worlds. So it's just forcing. If you want to work here, you will love this. And there was a really funny. There's like a forum of people who, unverified, I suppose, but claim to have worked in that team. Who says during a period of time they were forcing people to log in, and a lot of people who were working on it didn't know how to.
Yeah.
So they were claiming like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we won't do a meeting over Teams. We'll do it in Horizon Worlds." But then when they were scrutinised and kind of audited, most of the people who were saying they could do that couldn't even log in. They had no credentials to log in, which I think is absolutely nuts.
Because I don't know if you've ever used Horizon Worlds, but
no, of course not.
I mean, it's frankly painful. It's lots of children running around, and there's not a huge amount to do. You can play games that are built for Horizon Worlds, and they are invariably poor quality versions of games that exist better as like isolated games that you would buy and then play that way. Or it's music concerts, or which is really good actually. The music concerts are quite powerful and quite immersive. But I don't want to do that with a bunch of children like coming up to me and going, so invariably, if that exists in Horizon Worlds, it also exists as a spatial video that I can watch elsewhere by myself and really enjoy. So the value proposition for that experience is just not there. Now, if you look at something like VR Chat, which has an incredibly dedicated community of people who spend a lot of money on hardware, like body tracking and stuff like that, create furry versions of their avatars, and it's a little bit kind of subculture-y. It's not a subculture I subscribe to, but it's really popular. And it's that kind of niche subculture that I think people are going after, whereas Meta have just gone, it's everything to everybody, and we can't figure out what to do with it.
I was reading a really interesting document. It was effectively trying to understand the strategy of Meta and where they've gone wrong. And contrary to what you've just said, where it's something for everyone, their argument was because it's spent so much of its marketing dollar being like, hey, corporate slave, you could have a meeting in the metaverse, and that would just be so much better. And they compare it to, and I never really thought of these as metaverse platforms, but maybe
that's
you do
because
or don't.
It doesn't. A metaverse platform is an amorphous term that doesn't mean anything.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, there's a degree of psychological safety for both me and the author of this report, which is that if you look at the fun and organic forms of the metaverse, and they suggested Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft being them, where hey, people are just organically building communities and having fun in those platforms, they're doing really well. millions of users. Whereas Metaverse was just like, hey, imagine responding to emails with a VR headset strapped to your face, and then they're surprised that they've got like one user, and that's the person they're holding at gunpoint in the office to log in repeatedly every day. Like that is, according to this person, that's the big disconnect. Is there's no fun in in their version of the Metaverse.
In their version of the Metaverse, no, because it's either do meetings in Horizon Workrooms or whatever it was called, which I don't even know if it exists. Microsoft had Mesh, which they've now shut down and integrated into Teams, and nobody's using that for immersive meetings. But then they have this kind of general Horizon Worlds area where you can go to a world and just check it out. Like you can go to a stand-up comedy show, which is quite an interesting use case for it. But I think that exists better elsewhere. And that's the point, is that other people are doing this much better than Meta are for whatever reason. And they're kind of half baked into it, and they just haven't built this connective tissue between all the different things they want to do. It's still incredibly disconnected and difficult to do. And it's just not something that reaches a mass market. So their answer to that was to release it on mobile so that people would do this as a mobile experience. And of course, nobody's doing it, because why would you?
Right.
Like, what's the benefit over everything else? So I'm not surprised to have seen that news that Meta is moving or redistributing funds away from its Metaverse team to other opportunities.
Well, I kind of think there's a little game I'd like to play with you in a second, Duncan. Right, just to really question whether or not you're the expert on this. But I kind of think if a lot of this didn't land during the pandemic, which just perfect environment for it, then it's kind of missed its moment. And I think it was in the previous podcast we talked about BCI, and my point was a lot of the buzz for this arrived at the wrong time. It arrived too early, and people like you who are in the right headspace for this type of thing will just continue tracking it. But people like me will be like, okay, well, this sucks, and the games in here are rubbish, so I'm never going to try this again. There's no point until something changes my mind. And there's a really interesting kind of history of the Metaverse that people focus on, like Second Life and things like that.
Yeah.
And actually, if we were to just give Meta its credit, there was a moment, I think they call it the crypto winter generally, but it took a lot of things down with it, including the NFTs and Metaverse. It all kind of came down together, right? And it was actually around the time that you were looking in it. And it was only Zuckerberg being like, oh, hey, actually, I think the Metaverse is really important. I'm going to rename my company to Meta. That kept it going a little bit. But, one of the suggestions from these kind of corporate historians is if he hadn't have done that, it probably would have died completely, and we would talking about something else. And I think we'll probably talk about why we don't say Meta and we now say AI when talking about this a little bit more in a second. But just quickly, quotes from people who have an opinion on the Metaverse. They're all famous people, and I want you to tell me who is who. And there's a practical use for this, dear listener, because these will help explain one of the points that Duncan's made, which is that no one can agree on what the Metaverse is. Right? These are all people that are building it. So here's a really quick. This is a helpful one to start off with. Metaverse isn't a thing a company builds. It's the next chapter of the internet overall. Who would have said that?
I mean, loads of people would have said that. But are we looking at people from big tech? It's probably
big tech. Big tech. Yeah, it's Mark Zuckerberg. Of course, Of course, this. He's like, I hope. You may as well say, I hope the Metaverse isn't a thing a company builds, unless we build it, in which case it is.
The point is that just speaks to like why this has failed so horrendously. Is that if that's what he was trying to build, the next version of the internet, Horizon Worlds, where you can play some games and watch some videos of pop stars in 3D, is not a functioning version of the internet.
But imagine being a shareholder in the company where it's just changed to Meta, and the first thing you hear from the CEO is like, well, the Metaverse isn't a thing a company builds. It's like, well, I sure hope it is, Mark, because this is what you're doing, isn't it? Anyway, another quick one. We won't do this indefinitely, but I think that some of these are absolutely great. There's not an agreement on what the Metaverse is. Good point. Duncan agrees. Mm-hmm. Even though one company has changed its name in anticipation of defining it. Now, who could possibly have said that? It's got a lovely snarky undertone to that one, which is why I've selected it.
That would be some sort of commentator. I'm thinking about all these names who you probably won't know there, but this is somebody who's
I'll tell you, I might know who they are.
This is somebody who's well known, is it?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Bill Gates.
Close, but nowhere near, actually. Eric Schmidt of Google.
Oh, Eric Schmidt. Right. Okay.
Eric Schmidt. Okay. Here's a good one. This is just, I'll just do, there's two more. This is a good one,
Okay.
right? For a description. I just want to see if you agree with this. It rolls off the tongue, this bad boy. It is a massively scaled and interoperable network of real-time rendered 3D virtual worlds that can be experienced synchronously and persistently by an effectively unlimited number of users, each with an individual sense of presence.
That'll be like a Tony Parisi or someone like that.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
You got me. It's Matthew Ball, an author, formerly of Amazon.
Matthew Ball. Right. No, I know. Yeah, I've met Matthew Ball. Yeah.
Right, here's a final one. We'll do. Maybe I'll roll in a few of these. I'll try and pass them off as my own, in fact. And if you can call me on them, even better. Basically, anytime I say something profound or eloquent, you're going to be like, right, that's clearly someone else. I don't see someone strapping a friggin' screen to their face all day and not wanting to ever leave. I agree with this one. This is bad news.
I reckon that's what's his name? I know who it is. The I can't remember his name. He's bald and wears glasses.
Oh, he's famously not bald, this guy. I don't think he wears glasses either.
I don't know who it is.
Were you thinking of Scott Galloway?
Yeah, Scott Galloway.
Who has said something similar, I think.
Yeah, because he hates VR.
Yeah.
He hates it.
This is sad for me because I do agree with Scott Galloway also because I've put it on. I immediately feel sick whenever you've tried getting me to use yours. We were playing a combat game, weren't we? And I couldn't. I kept dropping the bullets to load my gun with, and I was mobbed by stickmen. This was Elon Musk, so I agree with Elon Musk. Oh no, that's bad news.
Yeah,
that's bad news.
No.
But he famously doesn't think the metaverse is going to pan out at all, does he? He's one of
I don't think the metaverse is going to pan out at all. But look,
yeah, but you're not Elon Musk, is my point. I'm talking of all of the tech bros. Everyone else is in, and he's like, yeah.
Look, I think what's interesting at the moment is that the market is kind of splitting up again into different product categories rather than just focusing on a software application that many different product categories can feed into. So you have VR, so primarily used for gaming or immersive media, and the Steam Frame has just been announced. We don't know the price at the moment, but I'm incredibly excited for it because it's a Steam Deck for your face, so you can play standalone games, but it's completely focused on VR and flat gaming from within the VR headset. There's no augmented reality other than some black and white pass-through. There's none of this other AI stuff baked into it. It is a gaming device. And I think that that's a smart play because it knows what it wants to do and it's going to do it really well. You've got the Meta Quest. I think Meta have just announced that they're going to delay their new versions of those because they want to release at a higher price point. There's a lot more competition, and they want a higher quality product. The one I've got, I've had various headsets. The one I've got at the moment is a good headset, but it's entry level, right? And I think they want to kind of tap into the top level of the market, which people like Apple and Samsung are doing with the Galaxy XR.
Right. So when you said a higher price point, I thought I was about to say, do you mean lower price point? Are they waiting for the technology to become more commoditized? So they're chasing premium. So they really want to roll. Oh wow. Okay.
I think they want to go premium. Is what I believe and what I see, what I hear about what's going on at the moment. They want to put in like OLED panels in so you get crispy blacks and nice contrast and stuff like that in the screen, so you can use it for productivity. You can use it for various things. You have things like face tracking, so you can get these avatars that really look like you and track your mouth and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. Don't really see it massively more beneficial than like a Teams call or a Zoom call or a video call of whatever function, because it requires a critical mass of people to have that device to actually then make that beneficial. I really like the idea, but again, I'm thinking mass market. And then you have the next stage of where all the money's being pumped in at the moment, which is the smart glasses. And I will talk about the difference between smart glasses and AR glasses. Smart glasses look like normal glasses. They might have a little screen, but it's flat. It's not projected onto the landscape in a 3D way. And things like Meta Ray-Ban It's Google have just announced some AI glasses, they're calling them, as a new product category.
Shrewd.
Which basically have a camera. They're like Google Glass. They have a camera built in and a little screen maybe, and you can talk to Gemini or Llama, or maybe OpenAI will release a pair going forward. But that's a kind of a new category that's coming up, and people are trying to make them more like glasses, which brings me on to my next point, that there's various different categories of this, each looking more and more absurd as you get through it. So, Ollie, what I want to do is I want to play a little game with you and send you some pictures of these smart glasses. And here's the first one, which is the Meta Ray-Ban, which is basically, there's no screen. It's got a camera in it. It's got a microphone. You can listen to music on it. And it looks, I don't know about you, but it looks pretty much like normal glasses.
So they look fine. I think they look fine. Yeah. And I have seen the advert where I can't remember if it's Ryan Reynolds, right? I don't think it's either of them. In fact, I think it's another hunky American film star eats a banana that he shouldn't have done and looks fashionable doing so. Then Meta tells him off. So yeah, I wouldn't wear them, but
I mean, I wear glasses already. I feel quite uncomfortable about that because of the camera. Makes me feel uneasy.
I genuinely do not like that part of it. Like the fact that if more and more people wear these, you're kind of on film all the time. I mean, I already don't like leaving the house, but that was cemented for me. Not that I do anything that interesting, really. It's not like I leave the house and start picketing.
People are going to film you accidentally falling over or slipping on a banana skin, which you actually did.
I have done that. I have done that. Going to meet you for a drink. I was 10 minutes late and covered in blood because I'd slipped on an actual banana skin in the middle of. It was on London Bridge. Loads of tourists looking at me. No one helped. Everyone was just looking at me being like,
well, everybody was filming you with their glasses.
Is this modern art or something this man's doing? I've never seen it before.
Okay, now we're going to go for the next Meta pair of glasses, which actually have a screen in them and are a bit chunkier. And these are a bit more AR glasses than smart glasses. So compare that to the one that you see already.
It's like Milhouse from The Simpsons, isn't it? Really?
I mean, they're big,
just
right?
Massive.
They're getting chunkier and chunkier.
How heavy are they? They look like you would be tired after wearing them for an hour.
Yeah, I can't imagine that those are particularly comfortable. But now let's get on to the big one.
A quick question, slightly off topic. Who is this guy that they've just got modelling glasses all the time?
This is a guy, I should mention, this is a guy who writes for a website called Upload VR. He's called David Heaney. So he's just showing the difference between these glasses. So I'm just using this as a model to show Ollie these glasses. But now I'm going to give you a couple more. Now this is from a product that's just been announced, which is Google's XR glasses. So they have the Galaxy XR, which is a full-on VR headset. Open periphery, so you can see a little bit of the world around you. But what they want to do is like shrink this down into the form factor of glasses, but still maintain the 3D aspect of like having virtual reality with clear screens, so you can still see the world, like proper AR. And they're going, we've done it. Here we go. Here's a product. They just look like real glasses. Hey, I look like I'm wearing real glasses, and they're completely transparent lenses. So here you go, Ollie. What do you think about that? Look like real glasses to you?
I like how high they sit beyond his nose.
Well, it is literally like I'm going to send you another picture from a screen grab from the official Google video explaining the announcement of these. And I want you to say what this woman doesn't look like a kind of a bad Stevie Wonder impersonator.
It's mad. Wow. Why are they like that? Is it your pupils need to be far away from the screen?
Because they need to be far enough away, and they've got loads of stuff going on in them. But it's a bit like saying, "Hey guys, it looks like I'm just wearing completely normal glasses."
God, you wouldn't. I tell you what, you wouldn't blend in. I mean, just something on TikTok and Instagram, you get a lot of people now playing pranks on people, and before they'd obviously have to have a secret camera or their phone hidden up. But Meta glasses mean they can do it in a more subtle way, and obviously they're very funny pranks. you would not get away with it. Like, you would be found out immediately. You'd be better off holding like an old 1930s camera over your shoulder.
Well, it's a bit like wearing a big pair of those glasses with a funny fake moustache on them or something. It's like, but the whole point about this is
like a child pretending to be an adult in a giant overcoat. And
it is a bit
glasses on.
It is a bit like that, isn't it? And it's just I get the idea, and I like the idea, but it just feels like the form factor isn't quite there yet, guys. Do you know what I mean?
So they're so far ahead. I'm thinking of when you would use these, right? It's when if you're boarding on the train or on a plane or something like that. And if you were sitting next to someone...
The big use case is like productivity. If you're in a cafe and you've got you don't have a laptop, or you can pull out a little keyboard or use your fingers to type or whatever. It's basically a laptop stroke phone replacement.
How is that more? How is that better to use than a phone or a laptop? Frankly, like the friction there is quite insane for me, especially if it looks like that. I mean, they actually look heavier than a laptop.
Yeah,
it looks like you could carry a Chromebook around. You could sellotape a Chromebook to your face and look more subtle than this.
Well, the thing is like it's a bit like just go either way, right? The Apple Vision Pro is essentially doing what these glasses do in this spatial computing, like having your computing ambient and spatially anchored. But the Apple Vision Pro is like a headset, and you're wearing a headset, right? You've got a headset on, and it's more comfortable, and you look like a dork, but at least you're kind of at least you're kind of going into it. You're kind of you're throwing yourself into, I'm wearing a headset. With this is like, I wish I didn't look like I was wearing a headset, but I'm going to wear these oversized dark glasses in a cafe, so everybody's walking around, what's that guy doing?
Well, but back to the thing, like if you're sitting next to someone on the train, and sometimes if you are next to someone who's working on a laptop, you can't help but have a cheeky little look at what's going on. What's this over here? You could probably see what's going on in this person's eyes because the screen is so far away from their face.
I think you can, like, there are some things mean that you can't see those glasses, but like you'd still be like a bit unnerved by it. And I think that that's the point. So one of the things that people say about VR is like it's quite heavy friction and you're disconnected from reality. So what they're trying to do is like make these transparent so you can see through them. Apple famously put like a second screen on the front of the Vision Pro so people could get a representation of their eyes and where they're looking and make you feel more connected. But it's got to the point where it's just absurd. Why, like, you wouldn't be able to look at anything else. You're like, it's not. They're not fading into the background. They're making things patently ridiculous.
It's almost like they're trying to solve the wrong problems, really, with it. In my view. But there's an interesting point. I don't know if you know the answer to it. So the original, obviously most of the metaverse, I suppose historically, but also where it's been successful. And you made this point right at the start around Horizon Worlds. It's been software based. Right, so actually the hardware almost plays a secondary role. In fact, a lot of the historic metaverse plays like Second Life, hardware wasn't really part of the story at all, right? And a lot of them saying, we would potentially still be in Habbo Hotel, Duncan, if the hardware had caught up because that was so much fun. And the core part of the business model there was ads. So we'll get you in to this digital environment, and we will serve you our pads, and we will make loads and loads of money off the back of it. So exactly the same play that Facebook and Google are already used to. Is that still the play here, or is this now purely like smartphone style physical device, £1,000, and we'll make our money that way? Or are they trying to have their cake and eat it too? That once you've got these glasses on, they're also going to serve you our pads.
I mean, they're undoubtedly going to serve you our pads, but like what this is a platform. So they're building the platform, the hardware, the operating system to become a computing platform that they can then probably serve you up ads on.
Right.
So it's less of a focus on advertising. It's big tech trying to find the next thing after the smartphone. But if they think the next thing after the smartphone is massive, great big glasses that make you look like a comedy like performer, then I don't think we're quite there yet. I think even if we get to the point where these are as small as these glasses, and yet I can have screens and spatial computing through these glasses, there are a bunch of people out there who will not wear glasses. They just won't do it. So to to
do you mean
this
glasses
will be
generally? So you think there'll be people like me will oversteer and just bump into things instead?
I just mean like there are people who wear contact lenses because they don't want to wear glasses. So to think that these devices, if they build them into a small enough form factor to become as small as normal glasses, that they will be as pervasive as mobile phones is just not correct.
Well, so Mark Zuckerberg made that point on a recent investment conference, like the opposite of what you just said, where he's like, hey, everyone upgraded their smartphone. You know, if we get that market with these glasses, then we'll make more money than anyone's ever made.
I disagree.
I'm with you on that one. I think it's very different play. I also think serving up ads on a device basis, there's a lot of precedent for regulators coming in and saying, well, you're not allowed to do that. So that happens with smartphones all the time, where Apple does a deal with someone where their search engine is default on the phone, and in a lot of areas, particularly in the EU, you're not allowed to do that. You know, so you have to give consumers choice. You can't put them down into a funnel. Now, if people were logging into Horizon Worlds and were served ads, you logged in. It's fair game, right? Same with Facebook. But if you buy this device for £500-600 and it's viewed in the same way as a smartphone,
it's going to be a lot more than £500-600 right now.
Well, I'm not. I'm out. I wouldn't even pay £500 for.
Put it this way: the Vision Pro is $3,500. The Meta glasses, the smaller version, are about $1,000. I think the AR version are going to be close to $2,000, if not more.
Right.
Like it's a lot of money for this at the stage it's at the moment.
I think their core business model would have to be similar to smartphones. So I think they're right in pursuing that, because I think chasing the ad revenue, which was supposed to be this giant market, I mean trillions and trillions and trillions on the software platform, where you'd be eating virtual chicken with your buddies, and then KFC would pop a thing in front of you, probably won't work here. I think the regulators will have an easier time saying, well, no, can't do that. You're not, Apple, you may own the glasses, but you're not allowed to be in charge of the ad revenue. That's not fair. Someone else has to. So you have to work with someone else to do it.
And I think that's broadly how it will work. Like, so they're building the hardware, the operating system, and then, whoever will be able to serve ads through that platform. But I think this is the big deal, right? Is and I see this split between someone like Valve, who are building the Steam frame, and saying this is a gaming device. It's very focused on gaming. You put it on when you want to game, and when you don't want to game, you don't need to use it. You might want to watch videos or movies on it, but it's very focused device. It's not the next mobile phone. It's maybe a games console or a media consumption device. The big tech companies are trying to make this a pervasive thing, and I just don't think it will work. The metaverse didn't work because it wasn't good enough to be pervasive, and people live their lives in this digital world, and have all that blockchain transactability and move between worlds and have identity tied to NFTs and have pictures of monkeys up on their virtual walls and in their virtual homes that are worth nothing now. Just the broad kind of applicability of this just doesn't work. And I think this is the problem with them, is that it's just not a broad enough applicability. I don't see it. Even though I love the technology and I can see its benefits and I love using it, it is a niche thing to be used when it provides value, not all the time.
Well, you might be on your own on that one, Duncan, because someone, and you'll have to tell me who, said this metaverse is going to be far more pervasive and powerful than anything else. If one central company gains control of this, they will become more powerful than any government.
More powerful than you could possibly imagine.
It gets worse. More powerful than any government, and be a god on earth.
Oh dear. Who said that? I don't know. Just tell me.
Oh, it's only Tim Sweeney of Epic Games.
Oh, right. So now Tim Sweeney's now saying he's moved away from the metaverse, and he's just like, well, AI is going to be everywhere. So there's a big beef going on between Steam and Epic Games, the Epic Games Store, which there has been for a while. But Steam basically makes you disclose whether AI has been used in the development of your game. And Tim Sweeney's saying, well, why would you do that? Like, it's going to be used so pervasively that people just don't care. And there's been a massive backlash, and people are saying, well, Steam are just letting the consumer decide rather than you deciding. And yeah, so he's moved away from the metaverse now. But he's Fortnite, right? Like, so Epic built Fortnite. It's a game. It is a metaverse platform in inverted commas. You don't need to strap something to your face to play it. It might be fun if you did, but people have choice. But it's not somewhere where people will spend all of their time building little houses and shooting each other. You might go to a concert there, but you don't spend all your time in a concert. It just beggars belief that people would think that this is going to become that pervasive.
I mean, you mentioned a concert thing, and you alluded to this right at the start, which is like, if you were to watch a virtual concert, there'd be someone messing around in front of you and stuff. And I think that's a big part of it, is because, so I don't like leaving the house. And the idea of, because I don't like people, and the idea of donning a headset and then having to be exposed to people, no thanks. Why would I want to do that? You know, and I think in many ways people assume someone like me is the target market to be like, well, no, you definitely won't have to leave. So like, no, but I don't want to be around digital people.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. So crime, meta crime, as it's called now, is a big issue. I mean, I think when we first talked about the metaverse, we had some of these, but it's ongoing, right? So the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, great centre, spent 11 hours and 30 minutes in using Meta's Oculus headset in the popular VR chat, Duncan. So I'm naming all of the big hitters here.
Yeah.
And they found that users, including children, encounter abuse behavior approximately every 7 minutes. So every 7 minutes.
That doesn't surprise me at all, but that's not unique to VR chat. It's like you'll hear the same said about Roblox, you'll hear the same said about Fortnite probably, or any digital platform that exists. It's a big issue, but it's not unique to
no. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's just one of the experiments. I think the reason I mentioned that one is that's a new one. So the one we mentioned right at the start, I think it was Horizon Worlds, where again, I think that it was a female journalist who went in and received sexually explicit imagery, I think within something like a minute.
Yeah, I guess the big difference there is that it's because it's 3D and immersive, it's that much more it's a difficult thing to talk about, but it's that much more visceral, the abuse that you could get.
That's a conclusion that the British police have come to. So someone's avatar, it's deeply unpleasant. A 6-year-old girl's avatar was attacked in the metaverse. I don't think they've specifically mentioned which one it is, and they've had to report because the psychological and emotional trauma was so great, they've had to treat it as if it was a sexual assault in real life, and they're investigating. I think that's going to set a lot of precedent. But there's another. I mean, this is I found a really interesting study from. It's the Dawes Centre for the Future of Crime, University Centre, and they effectively they held 2 expert groups, like kind of workshops, focus groups to understand like how crime would be committed in the metaverse and things like that. Very recently, kind of end of 2024. And there are a lot of very high risk, so things like child grooming, investment scams. Investment scams is a massive one, apparently. Interpol are looking into that because they think it's going to be really easy to launder money in the metaverse. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, if connecting the metaverse up with the kind of the blockchain stuff and crypto, sure.
That's what they think. Sure. Crypto fraud via the metaverse could become like the number one money laundering thing. And I guess if you're going to get people to not to drag NFTs back into the mix, but if you're going to suggest, hey, this is actually now worth £1 million, and then trade it out, then sure. I mean, that's basically one of the biggest criticisms of the modern art world, isn't it?
But again, this is just to be clear, this is a problem with crypto and its use, and crypto being lumped in with spatial or VR technology under this metaverse term just gives it a way to lump everything under one word. Whereas the problem is actually with the way that crypto works, not the metaverse, which is again why metaverse is a nonsense word that doesn't mean anything, and I am looking forward to it not being used anymore.
I'm going to keep using it then. Yeah, so like, hey, Duncan,
Thanks,
catch you in the metaverse, buddy.
Yeah.
But just to quickly round out from this research, so there's the top 10 crimes that all have very high risk. So sexual assault, harassment, hate crime, doxing, stalking, all of these have high risk. But they also got the focus groups to assess the defeatability, how easy it is to stop it from happening, and a lot of them get a very low score. Right? It's next to impossible to stop. So one of the lowest scores, hate crime, non-consensual sexual image offences. So to go back to the example of the person who was in the metaverse for like a minute and was kind of like, you know, sent vile images, doxing, all they think will be very difficult. So very high likelihood. Much like you get hated on within 7 minutes of being around here, but next to impossible to stop.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine if you were, let's say, a lot of the target market, and I mean, we've talked about Roblox before and been like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about this. You know, my friends' kids, they love playing it. But I found it quite odd how easy it was for 7-year-olds to jump in and end up chatting to someone and, you know, playing in a game that they've built and an environment they've built. It all kind of feels a little bit off. How quickly, bearing in mind, like, I'm just thinking of Australia has banned social media under the age of 16, how quickly something like that could happen here. If it were to be adopted very quickly and at scale, this mean time to offensive image being 7 minutes, how at a scale of high use, a government would go like, well, that has to stop. Like, you now cannot access this. You're not allowed to go into, you know, until you're this old, or, you know, and I think Interpol were playing around with the metaverse. They created their office in the metaverse as part of a training exercise, but also to understand, like, how do you deal with this? You know, there are all sorts of international legislation. Like, you could be committing a crime in the UK, and I could be receiving that crime in the US. Whose laws do you follow? You know, it's the internet law becomes incredibly complicated, but also how do you stop it from happening?
Do you know one of the biggest things, I think? Like, one of my next door neighbors delivered a Quest 2 to me and said, my 11-year-old grandson has been using this and we heard him talking to people online and we don't want him talking to people online. Can you shut that down? The answer was no, because there's no broad operating system level.
You can turn off the headset. There you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
So the answer is to turn off the headset. But the biggest problem is I said, you can police what he does on there, but they can't police what he does on there because they can't see what he's doing. So he puts the headset on, and unless you specifically like cast his view to a TV and sit watching it, you can't police what he's doing because you can't see what he's doing. And that's part of the big issue here, is that as soon as you put a headset on, nobody else knows what you're doing. You turn the volume down, like, I could be watching anything or doing anything and you would never know.
There are some very
so
funny,
many different things this is going.
Right. Well, no, I'm just saying that there are some very funny videos of people who believe that to be true, but because of some of the moves they are making or where their hands are, you can
That's
quite
like the old Red
tell.
Dwarf sketch, isn't it?
It's exactly. Well, so speaking on this, right? So there's I came up with this. This is from this same report on crime, by the way. And they, so speaking about hardware, because hardware's come into this a lot. They break down the metaverse to include kind of 3 big buckets, and we've talked about 3 of them. We've talked about 2 of them to an extent. So we spent a lot of time talking about virtual and augmented reality devices, almost all the time. They also talk about haptic suits, which you know, it's a big part of it. And then this is a phrase I haven't heard before, but is certainly going to be mentioned on all of our podcasts. And I believe, Duncan, you're going to enjoy this. Teledildonics. Which are electronic devices to simulate sexual interaction, extend the types of interactions possible, and facilitate virtual sexual encounters. And they think that's going to become, and I believe you agree, because we have had this conversation, that's probably going to become the money spinner.
I think you're right. Now, teledildonics is definitely a thing, as somebody has told me, I think.
Have you heard that phrase before? So have you heard that phrase? I've never heard of that before. I saw that and I genuinely spat coffee out with laughter. Which etymologist was like, oh, there's only one way of describing this?
It's basically remote controlled sex toys. But if you can remotely control a sex toy for somebody who is using VR, then it can become a very visceral experience, I'm sure.
I have read.
Yeah, somebody told me.
Academic journals.
As a friend was asking me about it.
Good.
So
I'm
anyway,
glad
moving
your
on.
experiments are fully rounded.
But being completely honest, not about myself, that part of the market for virtual reality is big. You go on to like the subreddits talk about the Meta Quest or any other device. They're asking, how do I do this in VR? And they're like, well, why would you want to be doing that? I'm like, well, no reason.
Yeah.
And there was a report actually from the Hub, that website that somebody's told me about, that showed the increase in users going to it from new devices, and the biggest new device was the Quest. So they have seen a significant proportion of their audience grow from going to it on these devices because it can provide that content in new and immersive ways, and potentially even with using, well,
both me and I imagine our austere audience will have to take your word for that.
So yeah, it's an interesting use case. But right, let's because we're probably overrunning on time a little bit, because we could talk about this for a long time. But I will just say that in terms of long or short, extremely short on the metaverse, because it doesn't mean anything. Long on the technology, as long as it's applied in the way that the technology provides value, and value to a specific use case that has a market. So gaming, for example. Short on the technology just applied broadly, and throwing stuff at a wall, seeing if something will stick. I just don't believe it will be as pervasive as the smartphone. And I say that coming from a place of love and enjoyment of this type of technology.
I think, rather sadly, I'm in the same boat as you, which is, it's a shame, isn't it? So I agree with Elon Musk and you on the same day. That's bad news.
Bad day for you.
I've got just to, and this is why I think this, right? So, on Reddit, there's a question: why does the metaverse look so bad? Talk about that, I think Meta's specific version of it,
Horizon Worlds,
yeah. And the number one answer is, which I think is everyone agrees, like, oh, that's probably true. Actually, is I just assumed Meta was an expensive daycare to keep Mark occupied while the company tried to function.
That's true. It's true.
It's a long stream of including what I believe are some ex-Facebook employees to be like, that's true. Yeah, that's what we called it. Here's a quick, because I just want to do a side bet. Then let's do a side bet on this. This one should be quite easy. So, no, this is no shade on Gartner. There, but for the grace of God, go on. I think actually the next session that you'll hear from us may well be our predictions session. So we're going to be in the same boat. Gartner predicted by 2026, 25% of people spend at least an hour each day in the metaverse for work, shopping, education, social media, and entertainment. Now, bear in mind that at the time of recording, 2026 is a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
Do you long or short that bet from Gartner there, Duncan?
It's a difficult one to quantify, right? Again, metaverse, what do you mean? Like, you're talking Fortnite? Then sure, loads of kids play Fortnite, Roblox, and all those kind of things. Like, is that an hour a day? Yeah, sure, of course. Do you mean in virtual reality? Like, does my sim racing count if I'm in virtual reality? Yeah, sure. Like, hour a day. If I could, I would. I don't think you can nail that prediction down, because it doesn't mean anything.
I think you can nail it down. I mean, because they've specifically said for work, shopping, education, social media, and entertainment. And actually, entertainment may be, but I think you're right. If you include Roblox, Fortnite, those guys, yeah, okay. Entertainment maybe amongst kids and people who play a game, but work and shopping. I mean, that was their dream, wasn't it? That was the big metaverse dream. Was like, hey, people will be doing their big shop at Tesco in a virtual Tesco online. Why wouldn't they? None of that's happened. None of that's manifest.
No, which is why I think it's so important to understand the value of the technology and where it's used. The value is in entertainment, gaming, media consumption. And if you look at it from that perspective, then sure, fine. But work, it doesn't provide any value over and above what exists today, unless you're doing it for something like training, where yes, sure. But it's niche, and it needs to. The use cases need to provide value. And it's these blanket statements that don't help anybody provide that value.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of blank statements, I'll do one more quote for you, Duncan. Guess who it
Oh,
is?
here we go. Right. I've done very poorly at this so far.
I think it's impossible to do well because all of these, they all kind of say the same things, but it's slightly different. You know, just move the verbs around.
Yeah.
The metaverse is coming. Metaverse is not only a place to game. Despite what we've just said.
Yeah.
Future worlds will be photorealistic, obey the laws of physics, and be inhabited by human avatars and AI beings. We will create a future in these metaverses before actually downloading the blueprints to be fabricated in the physical world. Although in this quote, just for full disclosure, I've assumed what they're saying is fabricated. They've put fabbed, F-A-B, E-D. I think that's fabricated.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Fabbed.
yeah, manufactured, I guess.
Yeah.
3D printed, maybe.
Yeah.
Is somebody who it doesn't, who is wrong.
Who do you think would do very well from hawking the underlying chipsets? you'd need to make
Jensen. Is it Jensen?
Jensen Huang of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
There you go.
So
that's why I used
go.
the term fabbed.
Fabbed. Yeah. Fabbed. Yeah, because please build it.
Yeah.
Please, otherwise won't make any money.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, I think you didn't. You know, I gave you a few hints, but I think you did quite well.
Well, I've got 1 out of 7 or whatever it was. But okay. So a mixed bet, but broadly, I would like to see the technology done well, and I'd like to see it done strategically differently.
Yeah, I agree. I think the tech is good. I'm all for it, and I like the idea again of someone donning a headset and being able to see. I mean, it's obviously an enterprise level. I would do this for fun, but most people wouldn't. But being able to see like, oh, this is where the pipes go in my house, and that's where the leak is going, and I now don't need to knock chunks out of my walls to find out where it's coming from. That to me would be tremendous value.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned going back to the Roman Empire, to be honest.
Well, I listen to the Rest is History podcast. That's enough, isn't it? I have a powerful imagination. I could do. But do you know what? You're right. We haven't talked about the gaming part of this. We mentioned games a lot, but actually, yeah, I'd be massively up for that. I'd be.
I love it. I love it. But maybe that's for another time. This has got a long episode.
It makes me feel poorly is the trouble, Duncan.
Oh,
it makes me feel poorly. I get travel sick traveling through the Roman
push
Empire.
On through. Yeah. Please don't hit me with that.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't cut a commanding figure of a centurion as I'm kind of leaning over the trireme being sick.
All right. Well, thanks for listening and watching, everybody, and we will be back another time. Say bye,
Cheerio,
Ollie.
everyone.
Bye.